Derek was gripping the wheel so hard his knuckles had gone white, laying on the horn at the car that had just cut him off, screaming words he'd never let his daughter hear him say. Except she was in the back seat. He caught her eyes in the rearview mirror, wide and frozen, and the rage drained out of him so fast it left something worse behind. Not anger. Shame. He hadn't decided to yell. It had just happened, the way it always happened, like someone else had taken the wheel of him for 8 seconds and handed it back once the damage was done. Maybe you've had your own version of that mirror moment. A text you sent and wished you could unsend. A voice that came out sharper than you meant, aimed at someone who didn't deserve it. And somewhere underneath the apology, a quiet fear that this is just how you're wired, that your emotions run the show and you're just along for the ride. Here's the part almost nobody tells you. The advice you've been given your whole life is backwards. You've been taught that a calm person is someone who holds it in, who grits their teeth and swallows it down. Japan figured out centuries ago that this isn't discipline at all. It's just delayed damage. The people who seem unshakable were never suppressing anything. They were doing something else entirely, something that works with the nervous system instead of against it. By the end of this you'll understand exactly what that is, and there's one idea near the middle, an old idea about where anger actually lives in the body, that changes how you feel it happening in real time. Before we get into it, if any of this is landing, take 2 seconds to hit like and subscribe. It helps this reach the people who are white-knuckling it through their own version of that car ride home. Now let's get into what's actually happening in you. Start with the myth, because it's the one doing the most damage. You've probably been told that a disciplined person suppresses their anger, that gritting your teeth through it is what strength looks like. Here's why that fails at the level of the brain. Suppression doesn't make the emotional signal disappear, it just blocks the exit. The physiological arousal, the racing heart, the surging cortisol, none of that switches off just because your face goes still. It has to go somewhere, so it leaks sideways, into your sleep, into your patience with people who had nothing to do with it, into your body as tension you can't explain. You're not weak for feeling the wave. You've just been aiming at the wrong target. The goal was never to make the feeling disappear. It was to change your relationship to it while it's happening. The first shift starts with a word samurai swordsmen used for the mind they trained for combat. Fudoshin, the immovable mind. It doesn't mean feeling nothing. It means being the kind of still that a threat can't dislodge. Picture the version of you in the car, the one honking before you'd even registered a decision to honk. Neuroscientist Jill Bolte Taylor discovered something remarkable after her own stroke, and it applies to every one of us. The actual chemical surge of an emotion like anger lasts roughly 90 seconds. After that, the biology is done. What keeps you furious for the next 20 minutes isn't the emotion anymore, it's the story you keep telling yourself about it. Fudoshin isn't fighting the wave. It's simply outlasting it without adding fuel. Tonight, the next time you feel that spike, try silently counting instead of speaking. Just get to 90. The second piece is what Zen practitioners call mushin, no mind, the state of not gripping a thought the moment it arrives. Psychologist James Gross spent years studying the difference between suppressing an emotion and catching it earlier, before the full reaction cascades. His research found that people who intervene at the level of the thought, not the expression, show far less physiological strain than people who just clamp their jaw and push it down. Mushin is that early intervention. It's the space between a thought showing up and you deciding it's true. You're not blocking the anger. You're just declining to chase the first story it hands you. The next time a thought like, "This is unacceptable," flares up, let it pass through instead of writing 3 paragraphs in your head about why you're right. The third idea comes from the art of Aikido, where a practitioner never meets force with force. It's called aiki, blending with the incoming energy instead of resisting it head-on. Most of us treat rising anger like an intruder to fight off. Aiki treats it like information to redirect. Yale psychologist Marc Brackett has spent his career showing that the simple act of naming an emotion with real precision, not just angry, but humiliated or steamrolled, measurably changes its intensity and its trajectory in the brain. Naming isn't suppression, and it isn't venting. It's redirection. Instead of asking, "How do I make this go away?" try asking, "What precisely is this?" and say the real word out loud, even just to yourself. The last piece lives somewhere lower than your head. There's an old Japanese phrase, hara ni osameru, to store something in the hara, the body center just below the navel, rather than letting it fly out through your throat or your fists. Neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky has documented in exhaustive detail what a stress response actually does to the body, the flood of adrenaline and cortisol that primes you for a fight that usually isn't there. Slow, low breathing into that center is one of the only voluntary actions that directly signals the nervous system to stand down. It's not a metaphor. It's a lever you actually have. When you feel the heat rising, put one hand low on your stomach and slow your exhale until it's longer than your inhale. That single motion is doing more physiologically than anything you could say to yourself. Here's the only thing to actually do tonight, and it's smaller than you'd expect. The next time you feel that first flicker of heat, before you speak, before you react, just put your hand on your stomach and take one slow breath out. 1. Not a new morning routine, not a 5-step protocol you'll abandon by Thursday. Starting this small isn't a compromise, it's the entire point. Discipline that requires willpower to maintain gets abandoned the first time you're exhausted, which is exactly when you need it most. Something this small survives your worst days, and your worst days are the only ones that matter here. Derek still drives that same route home most nights. But there was another evening, months later, another car cutting him off, another jolt of heat rising in his chest. This time his hand found his stomach before his voice found the horn. He let the wave pass through instead of past him. His daughter, in the mirror, just kept looking out the window, because there was nothing this time worth looking up for. Comment the word stillness right now, because it takes 2 seconds and it's your public commitment that the next time you feel that heat rising, your hand goes to your stomach before your voice goes anywhere. Send this to the person in your life who's told you 3 times this year that they're working on their temper, and then apologized for the same blow-up a 4th time. And if you want a channel that keeps naming what actually works instead of recycling the same advice you've already tried, that's what you'll find here every time.